Hi friends, I'm Anna Helman. Thanks so much for being here today. I've heard that you love the tips I share, so I'm back with another tip. This is this week's tip of the week. Now this one has to do with ink pads, but it's not exactly ink pads. It's how to get an extra use or several extra uses out of your ink pads. Now this is only going to work if you use Stampin' Up! Ink pads. If you don't use Stampin' Up! Ink pads, stick around. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll decide you want to try one or try a few. So I heard recently from one of my team members that she had just tried some of the new Stampin' Up! Ink pads. She had some from years ago, and she was really, really impressed with the amazing coverage she got from these new ink pads. I'm really happy with them. I love them for a lot of different reasons. But what I want to share with you today is actually what to do with these labels on the back. Have you noticed that they're on the back? If you haven't noticed, you are missing out on making your life a little bit easier with a little bit of craft room organization and some things like that. So I'm going to flip my camera around. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here are a few of my ink pads, and if I flip them over, you will notice this label on the back. Now, sometimes when people try our ink pads, they don't even realize this is here. So really love to share this for anyone who may not have seen this, but if you use these labels, still stick around because I'm going to share how to use these extra ones that may not be in your language. So when you get your ink pads, you can lift these labels off in a couple of ways. You can pull this whole strip off if you want, or you can lift it up and then use that to pop the label out and be able to grab it. I like to use my take your pick tool or the end of my scissors, my real pointy scissors, my snips, something like that. So here is how to grab one of these. Now, the two that are already missing had a purpose. The one that has the color name, I like to put right here on the end so that when these are displayed in my ink storage, they're really easy to find. I can see the color and the name. And then there is a label that is completely blank. That one is made to go inside this tray right here. Now, the reason for this is, let's say you have several ink pads open on your craft table at one time. Sometimes it's hard to tell what colors they are. Dark colors especially just kind of blend together. It's hard to tell what color they are. This right here helps you know which color is which so you don't get them mixed up. Now, there are several others in these other languages, and I love that we get a few extras. And here are some ways to use them. Now I've already pulled this one off, so since it's here, I will go ahead and put it on. But I like to use these extra labels to label some of my other craft supplies and make it easier to find them. So this is one of my sponge daubers. This is my Early Espresso sponge dauber. So I can wrap these around here and make it easier to identify which dauber is which. One of the other things I do, this is the first way I started using my extra labels, was to label the top of my ink refill bottles. Now, when you have a whole collection of these bottles, dozens of them sitting all nicely together, it's really hard to look down and see which color is which without these labels on top. So this really made things a lot easier when I started labeling them. So I haven't labeled this one right here, Parakeet Party. Go ahead and do that one right now. And when you do this, if you can try to keep them straight, they like to get a little out of whack, and you're going to see this doesn't line up perfectly, but those will overlap. Give them a nice good press so they stay together. And in case these ink refill bottles last a long, long time, but I have gotten to where I do have to replace my ink refill bottles. I go through enough ink. So you only have so many of these labels from each ink pad. So what I do is when I throw out this ink refill bottle, I will put this cap on my new bottle and I still have it labeled that way. So those are two things I like to label. Here is another one. My blending brushes, and I have one here I need to label. Here's how I do these. I take one of those labels and I wrap it around right under the head of the brush. Now, sometimes these don't like to stay stuck in place. The end of it likes to unwrap, and I'll show you what I do about that here as soon as I put this label on. So I love my blending brushes. If you haven't used blending brushes, I really encourage you to try them out. And actually, I can link you in the video description below to a video where I talk all about them. And I'll do the same thing with our ink pads. If you haven't used our ink pads, but you're intrigued by them at this point, I'll link a video down there as well where you can learn all about them. I love them, like I said, for a lot of reasons. I love how large the surface area of them is to ink larger stamps. I love that they lock open and lock shut for when I'm clumsy or when small hands that shouldn't have my ink pads get a hold of them. Here's what I do to keep this from unraveling. I'll pick up a glue dot right there on the end and just give that a nice good press, and that should hold that in place. So this makes it a little bit easier if my blending brush is facing away from me and I can't really see what color is on the bristles. I can see with that label right there. So what other ways can you think to use these handy labels? You could label, I keep sponge daubers for my pastels. I could label them. What else? Scraps, embellishments. It depends on how you store different things in your craft area, but there are lots and lots of ways to use these labels, and they are free of cost. They're right there waiting for you to use them. So I just wanted to share this. Hopefully this helps a few of you out. If you like craft room tips and tricks, click on my name below, Anna Helman at Scrapping, Stamping, and Stuff with Anna Helman, my channel name. You will go to my channel. Right there at the top is my card making tips and tricks playlist, where you can find lots and lots of more tips to help you with your crafting. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.